Hi, and welcome to the Exoskeleton archives. I've been working on Exoskeleton for the past 25 years, so I have a huge pile of concept drawings and other stuff lying around. And I thought it might interest some people to see what went into making Exoskeleton what it has become today. In this third part of digging into the archives, I thought I would give some insight into the long and tedious process of making the very thing that this whole project lends its name from, the exoskeleton. I began the design process more than 23 years ago, and it would take me several years before I found something that I would accept. One of the reasons why it took so long was that I really wanted a powerful design, but I couldn't just go wild and design whatever looked good. No, I decided that it had to work. It had to work with the human body and work within the limitations of the human body. These are some behind-the-scenes shots showing how the human body fits inside the exoskeleton. It would take a lot of sweat and tears to get to this point of the exoskeleton design. The concept drawings you're about to see were made between the years 2000 and 2007. By the year 2000, I had decided to leave 3D software and make a hand-drawn comic instead. At first, it was a huge relief. No long render hours waiting for the computer to calculate and finish the animations, no computer crashes, and no complicated computer programs. But throwing the computer in the trash also got me a lot of new challenges and new problems. Nevertheless, I had realized that I needed to work hard on my fundamental artistic skills if I really wanted to make a quality product. So even though I felt I had a talent for drawing, I had to admit to myself that I just wasn't good enough. I would have to become much more serious about it and study things like anatomy, perspective, and composition. I began consuming a lot of comics and art books to develop a sense of taste and to mature as an artist. I bought a lot of books on drawing anatomy and I was constantly doodling. I was trying so hard that I ended up completely depressed at one point and actually burned one of my books. Learning to draw the human body and trying to remember how the muscles relate to each other was a tough job. And then trying to turn and pose the character was even more demanding. Calculating objects in 3D space was a job the computer could do with ease, but my brain refused to do it for a long time. The drawings I made at the time were not very good, as you would expect, but after hundreds of drawings, trying to learn the different body parts one at a time, I finally was able to draw fairly decent human characters. There were a few things from my 3D animations that I wanted to carry over to my hand-drawn comic. The desert scenery, a vehicle of some sort, and the armor. I had a sense that this armor played a decisive role in my story, although I couldn't put my finger on what it was. The story at this point was almost non-existent. But as I developed the story, the significance of the armor grew more and more. In a way, the armor could be viewed as the main character, or at least the main source of conflict in the story plot. As the significance of the armor grew in terms of story, it grew visually as well. From being plates only covering the torso in the first animation, the armor was now thought to be covering the entire human body. So needless to say, a lot of work would have to be put into the design of this armor. This was the main villain, after all. A bit ironic that after having finally learned how to draw human anatomy, I would continue covering almost every part of the human body with metal plates. If I had thought learning human anatomy was hard, that was still nothing compared to the task I was now facing. Designing by hand and brain a mechanical suit that would actually work within the limitations of the human anatomy. And furthermore, I wanted the design of this functional suit to have a powerful visual impact and stance from every angle. When drawing human anatomy, you could at least do reference to what others had drawn before you, but with this mechanical suit, I wanted to create something new and original. I could take a broad form of inspiration from elements I saw in film and computer games, but I was completely on my own when it came to the specific design. That is why it took me countless hours across several years before I had something I would accept. During the years, it has become a habit for me to say, how do you eat an elephant? The simple answer goes, you begin by taking small bites in one end and work your way through to the other. One main problem I encountered in the design process was when I made a concept drawing of a figure from the front and then tried to turn the figure on its side or up and down. I wasn't too sure that I drew the angles and shapes accurately as I turned the object around. I felt I lost control, especially if my designs had round and organic shapes, and I just really wanted that structural clarity and integrity and not just some random geometry from one picture to the next. That particular problem directly led to the way the exoskeleton suit finally ended up, because every part of the final exoskeleton design is made up of angles and shapes that can be deduced from simple boxes. So basically, if I could draw a box in 3D and have all the sides be of equal length, I could then measure and slice the angles of the exoskeleton out of that box. It was a tedious process, but you could do it, and I was sure that I got the angles and shapes exactly right as I turned them around. This method made the design become fairly simplistic, but it also gave it its character. And having the organic human figures depressed by this overly angular machine would turn out to fit the exoskeleton story perfectly. The angular exoskeleton design also informed my design choices of the vehicles. The exoskeleton front fascia is present both in the cruiser and the PIT, and the vehicle designs also fit inside boxes to ensure that the vehicle's structural consistency is present in every drawing regardless of viewing angle. In the next video I will show more about the process of designing the cruiser.